Sports commentator Colin Cowherd, man, did he tear into Trump. And look, here's a guy who was a conservative Republican, and he had a whole lot to say about the orange one. Check this out.
You know, I've said this about Trump before. He's trying to sell me an America that doesn't exist. Let's say I got busted for some really bad crime in court, a drug crime, and my wife did too, in a separate case. And then so did one of my kids, my manager, my agent, and my attorney. It would be reasonable to conclude that I'm shady and involved in a business that's not terribly legal. Well, Donald Trump is now a felon. His campaign chairman was a felon. So is his deputy campaign manager, his personal lawyer, his chief strategist, his national security advisor, his trade advisor, his foreign policy advisor, his campaign fixer, and his company CFO. They're all felons, judged by the company you keep. It's a cabal of convicts. It's not that I'm not willing to vote for conservatives. I said I would have voted for Mitt Romney. Seemed like a decent family man. I liked the second Bush. George Bush Sr.'s son. I liked him. I thought he was a decent American, a decent human. I liked his wife, Laura Bush. I thought they were decent people. If everybody in your social circle is a felon, I don't think it's rigged. I don't think the world's against you. And to get people to agree on anything, 34 counts, 0 for 34. I mean, that's a batting slump even the New York Mets could be impressed with. 0 for 34. When you're constantly trying to sell me on an America that I don't see, I'm not saying inflation's not an issue, but I get on airplanes all the time, and it's not a bunch of rich people. I get on planes, there's people in normal clothes, they don't look rich to me, and the planes are all full, and the hotels are all full, and the freeways are all full. That means people are going to work. You're trying to sell me on this story and this narrative that's just not true. Trump's entire game plan is the country is in a free fall. But when everybody in your team, everybody in your group, your cabal is a felon, maybe the world's not against you. Stop trying to sell me on everything's rigged. The country's falling into the sea. The economy's terrible. The economy's okay. It's not like on fire, but the America that I live in is imperfect, but compared to the rest of the world, I think we're doing okay.
I'm a Congo, a cabal of convicts. He nailed it.
Oh. Yeah, I was going to bring that one up too. And, this is what is needed, to be quite honest, because where people here who are watching are pretty much baked in. People who may watch MSNBC might be baked in terms of who, how they view Trump. But it's going to be guys like this, who are conservative leaning, but also have a reach in the sports world that are going to also help turn the tide, and reach out to some of those independent voters. This is still Biden's election to lose. And, Trump keeps losing more and more support. But if people like him, I love what George Conway did on CNN over the weekend when he called out, one of the commentators and said, I can't believe CNN's paying you, the way that you're just lying about, these types of things. This is what it's going to take. Republicans against Trump. Keep coming hard. And again, it's not about, whether we all agree on 100%, but it's like, do we want to be able to have more elections after November 5th? And he called it plain and clear. People are working, people are traveling. This is the basic idea of America that Trump's people are trying to sell his followers against. And the fact that Cowherd is speaking up against this, there needs to be more like him following his lead. And this is going to be part of how we deliver that final verdict on November 5th.
Leon?
It's interesting to hear this guy is really on point, and the cabal of I wrote it down because I'm a user. The cabal of conservatives is a wonderful alliteration, but it's more than that. Here's what we know: looking at attack on Larry Hogan. Now, I'm not a Larry Hogan fan whatsoever. He's always kind of played it narrow. The Republican candidate for the United States Senate. He's always kind of tried to be Mr. Bipartisan. And so he said something quite mild, I think, that people should respect the jury. And what he gets back from the RNC is that's the campaign. Basically, they are a cabal. and they're demanding absolute loyalty, absolute unfettered, blind loyalty to the orange man who doesn't deserve it. And what we see, I mean, I didn't think they were going to get 34 out of 34. I figured they were going to fudge it and maybe they get like 20 out of 34 just because. I just didn't figure the whole jury. But if you got one, you got all of it because there was a pattern in practice. And so now you basically have these folks who want to make excuses. What's his name? The orange man said, you know, it basically his constituents aren't going to be happy. Well, they never been happy. They like him. What about that would make you happy? And so basically, what we have here is a situation where loyalty is going to lead us over the cliff. That's really what's going on. But again, always, we all know it's November 5th. And what we have to do if we oppose that man is to organize in such a way, not a narrow victory, it's not 1 point or 2 point, then it's a resounding victory. So that there is no question that he lost to the loss, to the loss, to the loss. That's the work for those people like Latasha and Melanie, the sisters who are out there doing the work, the brothers out there doing the work. That's the work we have to do. We have to make sure it's a resounding defeat for the orange man.
Rita?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see a lot of these folks that are talking right now, what they actually will do in November, because as we well know, conservatives have a history, you know, even going back to before 2016, but let's just say 2016 with Trump, of saying bad things about him and saying that, you know, they don't like what he's saying or doing, and then they turn right around and vote for him. So these comments are entertaining. It's interesting what Colin said, but I do think that for anybody who does not want to see Trump elected, please don't rest on your laurels with these comments, because a lot of these people will turn around and just vote for Trump. I do think one thing that he said is actually good for resetting the goalpost, because so many have said, and Trump keeps saying this too, that the official verdict on the New York charges the felonies that he was just convicted of, the official ruling will be in November. And that's not how it works. We have a criminal justice system. A decision was made. The decision stands until another decision is made in court. And so for everybody else, particularly Black Americans in this country who have been convicted in a court of law, it doesn't matter how many people think you are innocent. You're convicted until there is another decision. So I do think we need to get back to that. He has been convicted of these felonies. It doesn't matter if everybody in the world disagrees with the decision of what happened, the jury's decision. The decision is a decision.
When COVID happened, poor people were dying at a rate already of 800 people a day. Before COVID, if you went to a funeral every single day, it would take you 600 years to attend all the funerals of the people who will die from the ravages of policy violence, poverty, and low wages in America in just 1 year. It would take you 2 years and 19 days to go to all of the funerals of the people that will die today, and oftentimes silence. Nobody talks about this political genocide, but we are determined today to remember their death and be a resurrection of voting power and voice power like never before.
Economic justice and saving this democracy are deeply connected. We, as a nation, must listen to the demands of the poor, who are pushing and will continue to push political candidates and elected leaders to lift from the bottom so that everybody can rise.
We are the poor, the marginalized, and the underpaid. And we are taking one step forward to say that everybody has a right to live.
Poverty is not the fault of those who are impoverished. It is caused by those who make the policy.
There are over 135 million poor and low-wage, low-income people in this nation.
The biggest block of potential voters by far is low-income, low-wage voters.
I can't afford medicine. Sometimes I have to skip because of the cost.
The farm worker community is tired of the violence imposed upon us by greed, exclusion, and denial of basic human rights.
Those folk that represented by that casket, poor and low-wage workers who are the most moral people in this country because they go to work every day believing, even though going to work is hazardous to their health.
I'm tired of working 70 to 80 hours a week and still not have money for the necessity of bills. I'm tired of getting sick and not being able to go see the doctor. Having to make a choice to pay between rent or the light bill or food or clothes.
You cannot claim to care about families and a culture of life and then do everything in your power to rob people of equal access to resources and to force them to live in poverty.
Leadership of both parties had waged war on poor people and low-wage workers.
And this government has treated people experiencing poverty, including their military families, with disdainful, deliberate, malicious neglect.
So the truth is that my son died from poverty.
We refuse to accept poverty as the fourth leading cause of death.
The fourth leading cause of death in this, the richest country in the world.
We march today for our children and the generations to come.
And we need to do it with the loudest voices possible, the biggest actions possible.
We will voice our demands and register our vote.
When we stand up and when we stand together, things change.
There is the electorate that is, and then there is the electorate that should be.
34 million eligible poor and low-income voters did not vote in 2016. If just 20% of those voters in swing states were mobilized around an agenda, they could change the political outcome of every election. So we're launching the most massive voter mobilization and turnout campaign in history of poor and low-wage voters, allies, and religious leaders.
People are dying, but we know it doesn't have to be this way. And so we are calling on everyone to join us in this Poor People's Campaign, a national call for more revival.
We are here, we will be seen, we will be heard, and our power will be felt. We don't need to be an insurrection. We are a resurrection that will be felt across this country. Are you ready? 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 We are a resurrection, and we are ready.